You're on a family day out and this happens. How do you avoid that? Well, I'm going to show you. Welcome to Ralph's house.
Welcome to Ralph's house.
Yes, welcome back. This is an inclinometer, and those that drive off-road will know what these things are. No, it's not the sort of thing you'd find out of a plane. Although I suppose, yeah, they use similar sort of things. All about pitch and yaw. But I don't know, if you've ever been driving down a motorway, I've had it a few times, and you're thinking to yourself, am I going uphill or downhill? Have you ever had that one? Well, years ago, I used to have an inclinometer, which isn't easy to say, especially when you've had a few. But I used to have one in my camper van, and I only remembered it because my son just mentioned it when he saw this thing. He said, you used to have one of those in your camper van? I thought, yes, I did. It was a manual one. Filled with fluid. I love that. I think if I could find another one of those, I'd be quite happy because it sort of fitted in with the overall theme of a 1985 camper van. But they are really useful things, especially if you're camping, because when you come to park on your site and you don't know whether you, do you know what I mean? Because there's nothing worse than sleeping in a motorhome or a caravan or something like that that's not level. it can ruin your night. But I just thought I'd mention this because it's come up a few times on YouTube, but not in any great depth. Didn't really tell you much about it. So I thought I'll tell you a little bit about how this works and why you might want one. Incidentally, it's not much bigger than an old Nokia phone. You can tell that by the size of my hand, but it's perfectly adequate. The other good thing that it's got GPS, so you get an accurate speedo. And anybody that's changed their tyre size, or they know that their speedo's not accurate, and just about everywhere you go now, well, unless you live in Wales where it's 20 miles an hour, most areas are 30 miles an hour, and the average speed cameras, so you won't get away with it, you know what I mean? But it's useful to have this because you can set the maximum speed and it will go off at that speed. But I mean, this thing, if you look at the left hand one, well, if I go too far off, so presumably when you're going along, long before your family actually falls out the doors, you'll get that bleep, which is useful to know, isn't it? Yeah, and it works also that way as well. And you can turn the bleep off. But there weren't any instructions that came with this. So for anybody that's got one, I think, how do I figure this out? Right, well, I'll tell you once it's plugged in. It'll run off a cigarette lighter socket, or you can hardwire it in somewhere into your fuse box so it comes on with all your ignition lights. That would make sense, wouldn't it? On the left, I've flooded this. There aren't many pink hills in England, but it'll do for our purposes. I just didn't have a green towel, otherwise I'd have probably used that. The reason I flooded it is because without a floodlight over it, when I put this on, this completely swamps out the camera. But if you press the left button once, that's on low. I can see it perfectly well, and it'd be great at night, I should imagine. There we go. So that's what that does. The middle one will read miles per hour or kilometres per hour. Whichever you prefer. If you're in Europe, you'll probably want kilometres per hour. But you can get into that through, if I hold the left button down long enough, and then I think right button, yeah, see, MPH or KMH, go back to MPH, and to come out of it, press and hold it down. There, it's in MPH. If I'd done it while it was on kilometres per hour, it would have displayed that on there. So because I'm not near my window at the moment, it's not picking up a satellite, but otherwise it would give you your coordinates too. No substitute for a sat nav, I have to say, but quite useful. I haven't been able to try the compass out because I haven't had it in the car at the moment. It's permanently pointing at north, but presumably once you get going that changes. Look, so it's trying to pick up the signal up here in the top right. It'll also show the voltage on your car, which is quite useful. Getting a good idea when you're parked up what your battery state's like, or even as you're going along. If you're driving along and it's saying 10 volt, you might want to pull over. The other thing is the bleep is not obligatory. That's this little icon in the bottom that looks like a torch. I think it's supposed to represent a speaker actually, but if you hold this down for about 3 seconds, that's the right hand button, 1 2 3, or maybe a bit longer, 1 2 3 4, there we go. About 4 seconds, then it goes off. And it's saying to bring it back. There we go. So if you don't like this bleep and you'll get alarmed, you might want to turn it off. Yeah, useful little thing. And I'll give you the dimensions. It's called an M60, and it's about, well, I think I got it for £33 AliExpress. If you look on eBay, you probably won't find one for about 39 going on upwards. I've seen it 100 and something in some places. People do try it on, don't they, the box shifters? But there you go. Yeah, and you've also got a clock up in the top right, which you can set. This thing does seem to keep its memory, so it must have a small battery on the circuit board just to remember all this stuff, because if I'm unplugged it, it'll still show MPH, and the clock presumably will as well. The one thing is that after a while it will go off, but I mean that's no bad thing, is it? You don't want to be necessarily looking at it all the time. What you've got to do is tap it and it'll come back on. So there you are, and a digital inclinometer for those that are interested in these things. Right, let's get some sizes, shall we? It is, I would say, 127 long, and it's about 60 high, something like that. Depth, and I'm going to get, it's going to upset it now, isn't it? Depth is about 32mm deep. On the back you've got a mount. It comes with a windscreen mount with a sticky pad, so you could fit them that way if you want, on a bracket. In my case, the reason I bought this is because hopefully if I get some time tomorrow, I want to fit, because I've got a Honda Civic 2006. It's getting on a bit, but it's, you know, it's a tidy little car. And the radio sounds amazing, but I don't tend to listen to the radio. I much prefer my own choice in music. And my son was saying, oh, please get an MP3 player in that car. So I've got a touch screen on a 10-inch screen, which I'm going to wire in. There's a few other things to go with it, but it means one of the displays at the top, I forget what it does. Well, you lose the onboard sat nav, but that was never any good anyway. It was a sort of top-down version. It was like playing GTA 1. If you've ever played that, no one drives a car from the top down, do they? So I could never get on with that, and also it got a very clunky knob to choose your coordinates. I thought, no, this is no good. So I won't mind missing that, but it also means one of the other clocks at the top will also vanish, and I thought, well, I've got to get in there anyway, so why don't I just mount one of these in there in its place? It would more or less fit the display, so that's why I bought that. It's my sort of backup, if you like. Right, so that's it. That's the M60 bleeping inclinometer. As I say, you can turn the bleep off. I've got another Ralph's house coming up, but I just wanted to put this one out because a lot of people are looking at these and they don't know how they work or anything. But I think I've shown you the basics. Anything beyond that you can sort out yourself. One final thing, because you're thinking, well, supposing I want it mounted at that angle, isn't it going to go mental? Yeah, it would, except if you press the right, left hand button, I think, it zeroes it out again. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.